Hello and welcome to God Think TV. My name is Brooke.
How you doing? I'm Bob.
That's Pastor Bob. So today we're going to talk to you about 4 things.
4 things.
Yep, what are they?
Well, 4 things. They're awesome things, and they're things, not just things, they're tools.
Yes.
That are going to motivate you into your calling and your purpose in God.
Yeah.
It's like great, and I want to brag on Brooke a little bit, because like God's really put this on our heart to inspire you and to actually, like I say today, it's not unusual to call them tools.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
and one of those tools, and we have little props for you today too. One of those tools is prophecy.
Prophecy.
There you go. Don't you love it?
Yep.
And the second tool is testimony. And she's going to explain this to you, but stick with this one. You want to get it all the way to the end. And the third one is miracles, signs, and wonders. As a matter of fact, some of you are going to get that along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And the fourth one is God's voice. She made it especially big.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's just get right into it.
Do it.
I got some examples from the Bible
Yeah.
to show you people who have gotten one or multiple of these tools from God. And those tools alone, they clung to them and it motivated them
That's awesome.
to act, to not just have this feeling in their heart like I believe it, but they believed it so much that it motivated them. It was their motive into action.
Yes.
You know, and like that is what it's all about, you know, because we're not just supposed to be here on this earth like, yeah, I believe in God.
Right.
That's you just believe. You're supposed to be a believer in action.
Absolutely.
So the first person I want to talk about is Noah.
Whoa,
This is really interesting because we all know Noah as he built the ark
Yeah.
and he filled it with the animals and they were essentially saved from the flood. So the word that was used in the Bible is the Hebrew word Matar. I'm not a Hebrew speaking person, but that is the word
But you're not a Hebrew speaking.
Matar. And the word in itself means to rain. And this word actually was used another time in Genesis. When it noted that God has not caused it to matar yet on the earth. So it hadn't rained yet. Then we fast forward to Noah's time and Noah's story, and God says, hey, Noah, I'm going to cause it to rain, and it's going to rain a lot, and I need you to build a boat to save the good people and the good animals.
Yes.
Noah, being a human, not experiencing rain yet, he didn't know what rain was, but he knew what God said, and that was build a boat.
Imagine you getting that from God.
I would.
That'd be kind of crazy, like God telling you something you didn't know.
I know.
And saying go.
I know.
That's what he does.
And exactly. He does do that. And that's what it made me think of. I'm like, man, Noah had to have such a supernatural motivation.
Yes.
You know, because God spoke to him. That's
Yes.
crazy, first of all. Hi, God, yes, you're speaking to me, which he does. But then he told Noah something that was, at the time, impossible or just not real. But Noah knew that it was God's voice that spoke to him, and he had an action attached to that. Noah built an ark. So he did that.
Right.
And then therefore we're all here because of it.
And that's what we're doing today. We're giving you tools to activate you into your purpose.
So Noah had a big dose of God's voice in that example.
God's voice.
God's voice.
God's voice.
That's God's voice.
Yeah.
Yes. So example number 2 is Abraham. And Abraham also heard from God. So, of course, Abraham, the story of him and his son Isaac, he did not want to kill his son. I mean, that was not his, he didn't have a desire to kill his son, but he had a desire to follow God. And so...
Unless his son was a teenager.
It doesn't say that he was or not.
I'm not going to say that. I don't know.
What was interesting, in Genesis 22, verse 2, God told Abraham to offer his son. So that's in verse 2 of chapter 22. Verse 3, it says, so Abraham got ready to do that. There was no verse in between where Abraham was like, but God, you know, I don't really I don't know.
He got instantly motivated?
He got instantly motivated.
Wow, that's a good thing.
And it shows that.
Yeah.
Verse 2 of Genesis 22, it says, Abraham, I need you to offer your son. And in verse 3, Abraham prepared to do that thing.
Yeah. So you're saying people out there, when they hear God's voice, they should act.
But even there was a time of preparing, because it wasn't like offer your son, okay, great, let's kill him right now. He had to prepare. And in that time of preparing, you know, that was even then motivating his heart and exercising that motivation. Because, I mean, imagine the whole way you're climbing up there, you're with your son and you're getting up this mountain. You're probably like, man, I'm about to offer my son. This is going to be hard.
Be rough.
But then he even had the faith to tell his son, God's going to provide the lamb.
Yeah. That's
so
awesome.
He heard God's voice and he was motivated with supernatural motivation.
And so will you.
And example number 3 is Mary, Jesus' biological mother.
Yes.
She witnessed a miracle by seeing an angel and then also being conceived as a virgin, or conceiving a child as a virgin.
That's a miracle.
But she also received a prophecy, and I see it as that because the angel wasn't God, but God used the angel and spoke through them. And that's what God does with prophecy. So we know that Mary was a virgin, and she knew that was impossible physically to have a baby as a virgin. She also knew how it was going to look to everybody around her, including...
Not a pretty sight.
Right, including her fiance Joseph, and she had to come to him pregnant saying, but I'm a virgin, and this is something supernatural. Then later Joseph also witnessed signs and wonders, God prophecy, and he believed it too.
Angels and dreams.
And they stayed supernaturally motivated for their entire lives.
Absolutely.
And, which is just, that's remarkable because they traveled extensive miles, over hundreds and hundreds of miles, while she was pregnant. Jesus hadn't even done anything spectacular yet.
Right.
It was just this tool that they were given, that they heard, that motivated them enough to see
take action.
Yeah, to see it out.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I really like that one.
It's really good.
And I'm going to end with Zacchaeus, actually. So he heard a testimony.
Oh,
so
yeah.
He saw this huge crowd, and he had heard about Jesus, but it says in Luke 19 that he wanted to see it for himself.
Yeah.
So he heard a testimony, but he wanted a taste of it himself.
Personally.
Yeah, and so the crowd was over here, and he knew Jesus was going that way, so he took action. He was supernaturally motivated by the testimony. He climbed up the tree just to see what Jesus was like, and he got actually more than that. Jesus said, hey, I'm going to come to your house, and I'm going to eat dinner with you. Meanwhile, the whole crowd hated Zacchaeus because he was a tax thief, but it was a testimony that he had heard from somebody else, and that supernaturally motivated him. And I'm going to go out there on a limb myself and say that that person that said, oh, Jesus is so great, he did this and he's all that, didn't even realize that their testimony was going to motivate somebody.
You never know what your testimony is going to do.
Exactly.
And I like Zacchaeus also because his testimony, what he did from that testimony was he actually positioned himself to get connected to Jesus.
Exactly.
And guess what? From his own physical bearing and how he wasn't able.
He was
too short.
Yeah.
There was a big crowd.
Yeah.
Everything put him on the outside, but he took steps. He was motivated by testimony to take steps to get into a different position and a different perspective and get God's attention.
Yep.
It was great.
Yeah. It was really cool. And I thought that was actually something super practical because, I could maybe assume that Zacchaeus wasn't even a believer until then. But the testimony was enough to entertain his brain to do something like climb a tree and put himself literally out on a limb.
And check this out. You'll hear testimonies out there. You'll hear some here also because we're motivating in this. If you're like Zacchaeus, Jesus will come by your place and he'll say, hey, I want to go have dinner with you tonight. Yeah, he wants to break bread with you.
He'll come meet you at your place.
Yeah,
exactly.
And maybe he'll bring some proteins.
Totally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So all of these people displayed supernatural motivation. They weren't motivated or discouraged by the natural world.
Right.
They were just motivated. There's supernatural power in all of these things here.
Yes.
And they were motivated by that. So we're going to wrap up with this. If you have a prophecy, listen to them, read them. However you have them, you need to meditate on them, pray into them, discuss them with leaders. Don't let them just be this one-time thing because that's something that can be used to motivate you day in and day out. And also, if you have witnessed a miracle, I know like Pastor Bob has and lots of people have, but those are things to share or write down or record, remember them, in any way, shape, or form. Do that because in a way, you witnessing it becomes a testimony.
Right.
And that becomes somebody else's supernatural motivation to hear God's voice, and then they're
Absolutely.
prophesying. Do you see how they're all connected?
They're all connected. They
It's
actually
great.
are all part of God's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is why
really
that's
great.
the big one.
Yeah, it's the big
These
one.
couldn't all fit in there.
Yeah.
And then, if you do, you can hear his voice, and you should listen to it at least a little bit every day, and make sure that's the one. That's why it's the big one, because that's one that we need the most of.
Right. Get acquainted with your Bible, because your Bible will not lead you away from God's true voice.
Right.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of voices in the world.
Yep.
So keep going, young lady.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a great job today.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm
So,
really proud of Brooke. She's
my
like,
final thing though is within all of these things, God's gonna ask you to do something at some point.
yeah,
I don't know what it is, but you need to do it.
just do it.
Just do it. Like these people in the Bible, just do.
Is Nike going to give us like a...
Probably not.
Okay. I'm just checking.
But you know what? That's all right.
Great.
Because we're sponsored by Jesus.
Peace.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment on maybe some of these things that you have been motivated on before.
Yeah.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. We also have a prayer request form, so make sure that if you have prayer requests, you let us know.
Yeah. We love you.
Yes, we do.
Bye.
About
That
11
was a little
minutes.
longer than you wanted.
But it was still shorter than they normally are.
Oh, yeah. People almost get through this one.
Maybe. We'll see.